You ever notice how society doesn't need chains or guards to control you? It just needs you to fear disappointing everyone. That fear is the leash. The invisible rulebook you follow without ever questioning who wrote it. Be nice. Be humble. Be agreeable. Don't outshine anyone. Don't challenge authority. Don't think differently. You obey because you think these rules protect you. But the truth is darker. These rules were designed to keep you harmless, predictable, and easily managed. Before we go any deeper into what I'm about to show you, hit subscribe, not for me, but because this is the moment you begin unlearning the lies that shaped your life. The world isn't run by the people who follow society's rules. The world is run by the ones who study those rules and break them strategically. You've seen it yourself. The quiet worker who never gets promoted because they're too modest. The talented student who never speaks up because they're afraid to sound arrogant. The people pleaser who gives everything and receives nothing. Meanwhile, the rule breakers, the ones willing to bend norms, ignore criticism, reject guilt, rise faster than anyone expects. That's not luck. That's design. Society publicly worships morality but privately bows to power. Machiavelli warned, "If you want to rule, learn how not to be good." He didn't mean cruelty. He meant independence, the kind of independence that makes systems nervous. But here's the twisted part. Society teaches you the rules that benefit them, not you. Rules that keep you compliant. Rules that kill ambition. Rules that punish individuality. Rules that reward obedience while quietly choking your potential. You've felt this all your life. The guilt when you put yourself first. The fear of being judged for wanting more. The pressure to stay quiet when you know you're right. You've been conditioned to ask permission for your own existence. That ends today. Because once you understand the 10 dangerous rules you must break, you'll see how much of your life has been shaped not by your nature, but by the expectations of people who fear anyone who can't be controlled. This journey begins with a single shift, realizing that most of the rules you follow aren't moral. They're psychological traps. Traps designed to make you hesitate. Traps designed to make you self-doubt. Traps designed to keep you small. And you're about to learn how to dismantle every one of them. The first dangerous rule society teaches you is simple. Don't make people uncomfortable. But think about who benefits from that. Not you, not the honest, not the ambitious. It benefits the manipulative, the entitled, the insecure people who rely on your silence to keep their comfort intact. The moment you start speaking truth, setting boundaries, or having standards, you become a problem. Not because you're wrong, but because you stop playing your assigned role. From childhood, you're trained to avoid conflict, to swallow your instincts, to force politeness, even when your gut screams that something is off. Society frames this as being good, but it's really about being predictable. Predictable people are easy to control. You learned early that telling the truth can get you punished. You learned that questioning authority makes you difficult. You learned that having self-respect makes you selfish. And you internalized those messages without realizing they were psychological cages. But here's what no one tells you. Every powerful person you admire broke that rule. They made people uncomfortable. They challenged norms. They said no when others demanded yes. Discomfort is the first sign you're waking up. Society praises morality, but rewards boldness. They just don't want you to know that. Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." Modern translation, respect matters more than approval, and you cannot be respected if you're terrified of breaking the rules designed to keep you soft. The second dangerous rule is this: put others first. A noble idea until it becomes a weapon. People will drain you, manipulate you, guilt you, and call it kindness. They will teach you that sacrificing yourself is the highest virtue because it benefits them. But self-sacrifice without reciprocity isn't kindness, it's self-betrayal. You've felt this imbalance your whole life. You give too much, you tolerate too much, you forgive too quickly. And you call it being a good person. But good people break when they're taught that their needs don't matter. Here's the truth: putting yourself first isn't selfish, it's survival. Every strong leader, every influential mind, every strategic thinker knows this. You cannot protect others if you cannot protect yourself. The moment you stop prioritizing everyone else's comfort over your own truth, something shifts. People start treating you differently. They sense you're no longer playing by the rules they depended on. Your silence no longer belongs to them. Your time no longer belongs to them. Your life no longer bends to their expectations. This is the beginning of your liberation. The third dangerous rule society drills into you is this: don't outshine others. You're told to dim your intelligence so others feel smart. Soften your confidence so others don't feel threatened. Minimize your success so others don't feel insecure. They call it humility, but it's obedience disguised as virtue. Because the moment you show your full potential, you disrupt the hierarchy people cling to for their own fragile sense of worth. Think back. How many times were you told to tone it down, relax, or don't be so intense? Those weren't criticisms, they were warnings. Warnings that you were stepping outside the boundaries society built for you. Warnings that you were becoming someone harder to control. But here's the secret: every system fears the individual who refuses to shrink. The world doesn't reward smallness, it rewards presence. And presence grows when you stop apologizing for who you are. The fourth dangerous rule is even more toxic: don't challenge the narrative. Society thrives on unspoken scripts. Go to school, get a job, get approval, stay in line. Questioning these scripts makes you a threat, because the moment you realize you can choose your path, their power over you evaporates. Most people don't think, they repeat. They don't question, they obey. And they call it stability. But awakened minds, they see the strings. They see how guilt, fear, shame, and conformity are used as invisible fences. Machiavelli hinted at this when he said, "The one who thinks for himself is dangerous to the order." He meant that independent thought destabilizes systems built on compliance. You've felt this tension before. The moment you shared an unconventional idea, people stared like you'd broken some sacred rule. Not because your idea was wrong, but because it challenged their comfort. Normalcy protects the weak. Awakening threatens them. And here's where your shift begins. You stop asking, "Is this allowed?" You start asking, "Does this serve me?" That single question flips the power dynamic. Because the truth is this: the rules you fear breaking were created by people who benefited from your fear. They want you predictable. They want you quiet. They want you unsure. But once you understand that your obedience fuels their authority, the spell breaks. You stop being a participant in their script and start becoming the author of your own. This is where real power begins. The fifth dangerous rule society forces on you is this: play it safe. They tell you risk is reckless, ambition is dangerous, dreaming too big is unrealistic. But look closely. Who benefits when you stay safe? Not you, not your future. It benefits the system that relies on predictable, compliant individuals who never disrupt the order. Safety is the cage they decorate nicely, so you won't notice the locks on the door. Since childhood, you were warned not to fail, not to embarrass yourself, not to take chances others might judge. But failure is how powerful people grow. Risk is how innovators rise. The ones who change the world aren't the ones who played it safe. They're the ones who gambled on themselves when everyone else clung to comfort. The sixth dangerous rule is this: be agreeable, smile, nod, fit in, don't make waves, don't hold strong opinions, don't challenge the group. Society makes agreeableness sound like kindness, but in reality, it's conformity with a halo on top. Agreeable people are praised until the moment they need to assert themselves. Then they're ignored, dismissed, and walked over. Machiavelli warned, if you always try to please, you will lose respect. And respect, once lost, is nearly impossible to reclaim. When you're too agreeable, you become invisible. You become the person everyone likes, but no one fears losing. You become the one people dump their tasks on, their problems on, their responsibilities on, because you never say no. But strength doesn't come from obedience. It comes from clarity. Clarity of boundaries, clarity of self-worth, clarity of purpose. Think of the most charismatic people you've met. Were they agreeable? Or were they certain? Presence isn't born from politeness, it's born from self-definition. And here's the psychological twist. The moment you stop being overly agreeable, the world recalibrates. People who used to take advantage of your kindness suddenly hesitate. People who relied on your compliance suddenly tread carefully. People who assumed you'd always say yes start asking instead of expecting. That shift isn't accidental, it's evolution. Breaking these two rules, avoiding risk and excessive agreeableness, creates a new version of you. Someone who doesn't operate from fear, but from intention. Someone who doesn't seek approval, but commands respect. Someone who doesn't blend into society's expectations, but rises above them. And the more you break these rules, the more the world reveals who you were always meant to be. The seventh dangerous rule society teaches you is this: be patient, wait your turn. But whose turn are you waiting for? And who told you there was a line? Patience is a virtue only when it's voluntary. When it's forced, it becomes a cage. You've been told your whole life to wait for permission, wait for approval, wait for the right moment. But the right moment is almost always the one you create, not the one you're granted. Look at the people who rise quickly. They don't wait for opportunities, they manufacture them. They don't wait to be chosen, they choose themselves. They don't wait for conditions to be perfect. They move through imperfection with strategy. Society only tells you to wait because they fear the version of you that acts without permission. The eighth dangerous rule is this: avoid enemies. You're told to stay likable, diplomatic, neutral. But neutrality is rarely power, it's often invisibility. Every person who changed the direction of history created enemies. Every leader, every innovator, every thinker with an independent mind faced resistance. Because when you refuse to bend, someone will always break trying to pull you back into compliance. Machiavelli said, "A prince must learn how to not be good." Modern translation: stop living your life trying to disappoint no one. When you stand for something, you naturally stand against something else. And when you break society's rules, you become a threat to those who depend on those rules to maintain their illusion of control. Think about your own life. How many times did avoiding conflict actually protect you? How many times did staying silent prevent someone from taking advantage of you? How many times did suppressing your voice keep the peace, or did it simply keep you powerless? Enemies aren't a sign of failure, they're evidence that you've stopped living on your knees. People don't attack the harmless, they attack the rising. And here's the twist. Your true strength appears the moment someone tries to push you back into who you used to be, and you refuse. No anger, no theatrics, just quiet defiance. A simple, unwavering no where you once said, okay. A calm boundary where you once surrendered. Breaking these two rules, waiting your turn and avoiding enemies, creates a seismic internal shift. You stop moving passively through life and start carving your own path through it. This is how you begin transforming from a follower of society's script into the author of your own. The ninth dangerous rule society imposes on you is this: be predictable. Predictability is praised as stability, but in reality, it makes you easy to manage. People feel safer around you when they know exactly how you'll react, what you'll tolerate, and what lines you'll never cross. Predictability is comfort for them, but a prison for you. Because the moment you become predictable, you become controllable. And controllable people are rarely powerful. Think about it. The co-workers who get promoted aren't always the most talented. They're the ones who disrupt the pattern, the ones who walk into a room with energy that can't be anticipated. Unpredictability isn't recklessness, it's strategy. It keeps people from placing you in a box, from assuming your limits, from weaponizing your habits. When people don't know your next move, they treat you with caution, and caution is the first step toward respect. Before we continue, if you're starting to feel that shift in perspective, hit like. Not for me, but to mark the moment you realized you don't owe the world predictability. The 10th dangerous rule is the most crippling one. Stay humble. Not the genuine humility rooted in inner strength, but the false humility forced onto you to keep you small. You've been taught that your achievements should be hidden, your ambitions whispered, your confidence wrapped in apology. But why? Because the moment you own your power, you challenge the hierarchy. And people who rely on your humility to feel superior fear the day you stop dimming yourself. Machiavelli wrote, "It is not titles that honor men, but men who honor titles," meaning, your worth is defined by your conviction, not by your modesty. False humility benefits everyone but you. It protects egos, not truth. It preserves the illusion of equality while quietly punishing those who rise. And here's where the transformation ignites. The moment you stop pretending to be less than you are, the world recalibrates. People who underestimated you begin to step back. People who relied on your compliance start losing grip. People who once ignored your presence begin to feel it. Breaking these two rules, predictability and forced humility, changes the way you move through society. You stop walking softly to avoid being noticed and start walking with intention because you finally understand your value. You aren't here to fit the mold, they built the mold to contain you. Now you're about to learn what happens when you break it. The moment you stop obeying society's invisible rules, something unexpected happens. People begin revealing their true intentions. Those who benefited from your compliance grow uncomfortable. Those who relied on your silence scramble for control. Those who felt superior to you suddenly feel threatened. Because breaking the rules doesn't just free you, it exposes them. And exposure terrifies the ones who built their identity on keeping you manageable. You'll notice it first in subtle ways. Someone who once spoke over you now hesitates. Someone who dismissed your ideas starts reconsidering their tone. Someone who weaponized guilt suddenly loses their leverage. That's the psychological domino effect of reclaiming your autonomy. Every person who depended on your smallness is forced to confront their own. But something else begins to emerge too, your presence. Not the loud, performative presence society celebrates, but the quiet, unshakable presence that comes from a person who no longer seeks permission to exist. It's the energy of someone who has broken the rules meant to weaken them, the aura of someone who finally thinks independently. And independence, real independence, is rare. Most people are reflections of their environment. Awakened individuals become reflections of their own will. Alan Watts often said that the individual's greatest burden is the illusion of separateness. Machiavelli, on the other hand, argued that the individual's greatest weapon is separateness. Both were right. You must detach from the collective long enough to see the game clearly, but not so long that you lose your humanity. Now you understand why society pushes conformity so aggressively. Conforming keeps you dependent. Independent thinkers can't be predicted. Independent thinkers can't be emotionally manipulated. Independent thinkers disrupt the flow of power. So here's the psychological twist no one tells you. When you stop obeying society's rules, you don't become an outcast. You become a gravitational force. You attract people who recognize strength. You unsettle people who fear it. You inspire those who crave it. You stop living reactively and start living architecturally. You design your movement. You design your voice. You design your life. And as this internal shift grows stronger, you begin to understand the deeper truth about breaking society's rules. You're not rebelling against the world, you're reclaiming yourself from it. This is the part where your identity stops being inherited and starts being chosen. As you break these rules, you start seeing something society never wanted you to notice. Most people are not living, they're complying. They follow routines they didn't choose, chase goals they don't believe in, and silence instincts that could set them free. You used to be one of them, but now you're waking up. And awakening always comes with a cost. The world you once belonged to no longer recognizes you. You'll feel it in conversations. People who once influenced your decisions suddenly sound predictable. People who once intimidated you now seem hollow. People who once impressed you reveal they were only repeating scripts passed down by someone else. Society teaches imitation, not imagination. But the moment you start thinking for yourself, really thinking, you detach from the collective mind. This detachment is not loneliness, it's clarity. You're no longer drowning in noise, you're listening to your own inner authority. And that authority grows louder every time you break a societal rule meant to suppress it. There's a reason the system teaches conformity. Independent thought is dangerous. An awakened mind questions everything. Why should I live this way? Who benefits from my obedience? Why do these rules exist? And, most importantly, what happens if I stop following them? Those questions destabilize structures built on blind participation. Machiavelli understood this when he wrote, "The wise man must rely on himself." Dependence makes you tame. Independence makes you powerful. And powerful individuals can no longer be guided by guilt, shame, or fear. But here's the irony. The moment you step out of society's script, you step into life, real life. life where you choose your own direction, life where you don't need validation to breathe, life where you stop asking for permission to exist. And people will notice. Some will admire you, some will envy you, some will resent you because your freedom exposes their confinement. But none of that matters. Because once you understand that society's dangerous rules were never moral laws, but psychological barriers designed to limit your movement, you gain something priceless: inner sovereignty. That sovereignty is the quiet force behind every great leader, every innovator, every thinker who rewrote the world instead of repeating it. It's the moment you stop being a follower of culture and start becoming a creator of destiny. And the deeper you go into this awakening, the more you realize breaking these rules isn't rebellion. It's evolution. As your evolution continues, something profound begins to happen. You stop reacting to society, and society starts reacting to you. Your energy shifts, your decisions sharpen, your silence becomes intentional instead of fearful, and people feel that shift long before they understand it. Because breaking the rules doesn't just change your behavior, it rewires your identity. You start moving differently. You speak with fewer words but more weight. You choose your battles instead of absorbing every conflict. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. These aren't small changes, they're seismic. They signal that you're no longer operating from insecurity, but from sovereignty. And sovereignty is rare. Most people live in emotional debt, owing explanations, apologies, and justifications to everyone. But when you break society's rules, you stop owing anyone anything. You start living from a place of internal authority, not external expectation. That's when you realize the truth behind another unspoken rule you were taught. Stay loyal to the group. Groups want conformity, not individuality. Families, workplaces, friend circles, communities, each has norms you're expected to obey. Break one, and they punish you with judgment. Break many, and they punish you with distance. But distance isn't loss, it's revelation. It shows you who was connected to you and who was only connected to your compliance. You'll notice something else too. People who once dominated conversations around you now monitor their words. People who once dismissed your ideas now watch your reactions. People who once felt superior now feel unsettled. Why? Because you're no longer playing the role they wrote for you. You become harder to manipulate, harder to guilt, harder to predict. And that unpredictability turns you into someone who must be approached differently, carefully. Machiavelli understood this psychological phenomenon deeply. He wrote, "Men should either be feared or respected. Love follows both when earned." Society conditions you to chase love first, but awakening teaches you to build respect first. Love that follows respect is stable. Love that follows obedience is slavery. You begin to embrace solitude not as isolation, but as strategy. Solitude becomes the forge where your clarity sharpens, where you detach from noise long enough to hear your own mind, where you cultivate the power that makes people rethink how they treat you. And as this power develops, you start seeing the final truth. You weren't breaking society's rules. You were breaking the chains inside you that made those rules seem unbreakable. As you break the chains inside you, you begin to notice the world bending in ways it never did before. People respond differently. Opportunities surface where there were none. Doors open without knocking. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You stopped moving like a follower and started moving like someone who knows their own gravity. And gravity pulls. It draws the right people in and pushes the wrong people out. You stop chasing approval. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop shrinking to fit spaces that were never built for your size. Instead, you occupy space fully, unapologetically, intentionally. That alone is an act of rebellion in a society that teaches you to make yourself small. And that leads to another broken rule: never outgrow the tribe. This is one of the most dangerous psychological traps you were raised with. The tribe could be your family, your social circle, your workplace, your cultural expectations, anything that shaped your identity before you understood you had a choice. The tribe fears your evolution because it exposes their stagnation. They want you familiar, not fulfilled, predictable, not powerful. But the moment you outgrow the tribe, you reclaim your path. Your decisions stop being influenced by collective fear. Your direction stops depending on outdated loyalty. You no longer live by inherited beliefs, you choose your own. And choosing your own path is an act of war against conformity. People will try to pull you back. They'll say you've changed, of course you have. They'll say you're distant, you're supposed to be. They'll say you think you're better than them, you don't. But you certainly think better than before. Growth threatens anyone who refuses to grow with you. Machiavelli hinted at this with ruthless precision. A man who becomes strong makes enemies of those who profited from his weakness. Your strength will not be celebrated by those who relied on your softness. But here's the twist. You no longer break rules to prove anything. You break them because you've outgrown them. Your identity is no longer controlled by society's blueprint. You've drafted your own. And the more you honor that blueprint, the more power you feel returning to you. A quiet confidence, a grounded presence, a mind that cannot be manipulated, a spirit that cannot be guilted, a vision that cannot be shamed back into hiding. This is the point where you stop seeking validation and start radiating something much greater: authority. Authority changes the way you move through the world and the way the world moves around you. People start treating you as if you know something they don't, even if you've said nothing at all. It's the way you stand, the way you observe, the way you don't rush to fill silences that once made you anxious. You're no longer performing for approval, you're evaluating the room. And when you evaluate instead of appease, people sense the shift. You begin to understand another unspoken rule you were trained to obey: never put yourself above others. But society only pushes this rule on the ones they fear might rise. Mediocrity thrives on enforced equality. If everyone stays at the same level, no one has to confront their own lack of growth. But you're growing, and growth is disruptive. You stop pretending weakness to make others comfortable. You stop hiding your insights to avoid intimidating people. You stop dimming your ambition to fit a version of yourself that no longer exists. These small refusals are powerful. They're psychological declarations that you no longer belong to the collective narrative. You start becoming someone others observe, analyze, even imitate. Not because you're trying to lead, but because authenticity, real, unapologetic authenticity, is magnetic. It draws truth seekers closer. It repels manipulators instantly. It forces the world to treat you as someone with depth, intention, and a direction of your own. That direction widens as you break the next rule. Don't change too fast. But why not? Who benefits from your slow evolution? Who gains when you stay stuck in old versions of yourself? Not you. Never you. The truth is, transformation threatens the foundations of every relationship built on your old identity. People who met you when you were insecure expect you to stay insecure. People who met you when you were agreeable expect you to stay agreeable. People who met you when you didn't know your worth expect you to still negotiate it. But your evolution is not up for negotiation. Machiavelli warned that those who rise quickly face resistance, not because they're wrong, but because they move faster than the world can categorize. You're becoming one of those people. And that's why you feel the tension, not internal tension, but external pushback. The more you evolve, the more society struggles to define you. And when they can't define you, they can't confine you. This is where you finally realize something life-changing. You were never meant to fit into society's rules. You were meant to outgrow them. And once you outgrow the rules, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see society for what it truly is, a game. A game built on fear, reinforced by conformity, sustained by people too afraid to question the script. But you're not afraid anymore. You've walked through every psychological barrier they tried to place in your mind. You've broken the rules that were never meant to empower you, only to contain you. And now, you stand on the other side, not as a rebel without direction, but as a sovereign who finally understands the architecture of power. You notice how people speak differently around you. They measure their words. They watch your reactions. They feel the authority you carry, even in your silence. That's the final transformation. Power stops being something you chase and becomes something you radiate. And radiating power is the ultimate violation of society's last and most sinister rule. Stay small, so others stay comfortable. But you didn't come this far to live as a smaller version of yourself. You didn't survive guilt, manipulation, conformity, and psychological conditioning just to return to your knees. You broke the rules, not recklessly, but consciously, strategically. Machiavelli would call it necessary. Alan Watts would call it awakening. Your awakening is what terrifies society the most. Because awakened individuals can't be guilted, they can't be pressured, they can't be controlled, and without control, the system loses its grip. Look at who you've become. Someone who doesn't need permission, someone who doesn't ask for validation, someone who thinks, chooses, and moves with intention. Someone who stepped outside the collective and reclaimed their identity from the world that tried to script it. And now we reach the final moment, the one society never prepares you for. When you find your strength, you must decide what to do with it. You can live quietly with this power, or you can use it to build a life no rulebook could have imagined. So let me tell you exactly what you earned by breaking these rules. A mind that cannot be manipulated, a heart that cannot be controlled, a path that cannot be redirected by guilt, a presence that cannot be ignored. If this journey awakened something in you, if it showed you even one rule, you're finally ready to break. Subscribe, comment, and share this message. Not for me, but for the part of you that knows you were never meant to stay silent in a world built on illusions. Your evolution isn't rebellion, it's destiny. Who stepped outside the collective and reclaimed their identity from the world that tried to script it. And now we reach the final moment, the one society never prepares you for. When you find your strength, you must decide what to do with it. You can live quietly with this power, or you can use it to build a life no rulebook could have imagined. So let me tell you exactly what you earned by breaking these rules. A mind that cannot be manipulated, a heart that cannot be controlled, a path that cannot be redirected by guilt, a presence that cannot be ignored. If this journey awakened something in you, if it showed you even one rule, you're finally ready to break. Subscribe, comment, and share this message. Not for me, But for the part of you that knows you were never meant to stay silent in a world built on illusions, your evolution isn't rebellion, it's destiny. Who stepped outside the collective and reclaimed their identity from the world that tried